look, I'm 38. I know that this can't continue forever. As much as I want it to, I would race until I'm 90.
Welcome to the on-track recap from talkSPORT here on the start-finish straight at the London E-Prix after the last race of the season in the Formula E World Championship. I'm Jon Jackson, Saunders Carmichael Brown, the co-commentators this weekend on talkSPORT too, alongside Lewis McGlade. You're the pit lane reporter, and we've had an epic weekend, and I know you've made one team principal cry, which we'll get onto in a second.
In a good way.
But yeah, in a good way. It's the end of the season, and we've seen a huge resurgence. Jaguar have dominated this weekend. Nick Cassidy won both races, which means that Nick Cassidy ended the season having had, 10 points from 6 races to start this season. A real hangover, possibly from what happened last year in London. If you don't know what that was, check out Driver, the Amazon Prime documentary about Formula E. But to come back and win 4 races out of 6 and only finish 28 points behind Oliver Rowland, I mean, Nick Cassidy, the guy in form, and Oliver did that last year winning this race and went on to win the championship. So next year could be his year.
I mean, every year could be his year. He is such a talented driver, and it really was a shadow of himself earlier this season. Just to kind of an extra stat to add on to yours, it was round 10 of this championship. That's quite a long way into the season, and he was not even in the top 10. And he finishes, second in the drivers, but also does a phenomenal job to help Jaguar finish second in the teams and second in the manufacturers.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So he won the first race on Saturday, and then on Sunday, they did everything they possibly could, knowing that he could finish second in the championship. A good bit of teamwork from his teammate Mitch Evans at Jaguar TCS Racing, a guy he's known since they were kids. We know the story. If you've watched or listened to Formula E on talkSPORT before, you'll know the history that those guys have. Mitch did everything he could to get him into the final of the duels. It was then Dan Ticktum that took pole position, so Nick Cassidy didn't get those 3 points for pole position. Dan Ticktum had a penalty, so he didn't even start in pole position. He started in 6th. So Cassidy had the lead from the line, and he brought it home. Maybe some arguments to see how Mitch is feeling after some situations, but we won't go into that. You can check that out on the highlights on Formula E. But he took the race victory, and I think it has erased some of those memories from last year because, it was a pretty tough time for him not winning the championship after being the favourite last year in London.
I can't imagine how that must feel because he'd done what Roland has done this season. Now, he really was the driver to beat all the way up into the final weekend. But Formula E'd, and what we had at the end of the season was not that story that we expected. I wonder, going back to your point, if now we are seeing next year's champion. One thing's for sure, if rumours are to be believed, Stellantis have almost, not guaranteed themselves, but they're doing pretty much as they can to make that a reality.
They've signed probably the 2 most informed drivers, if rumours are to be believed. Yeah. Anyway, Nick Cassidy, I asked him after the first race win on Saturday, which was his favourite of all his 5 at the time race wins for Jaguar TCS Racing. He said Saturday, and obviously after he won earlier today here on Sunday to make it 6 wins in 32 races for Jaguar TCS Racing, I started by asking him whether I needed to ask that question again.
Today was probably, I feel like my most dominant or biggest win in Formula E that I've had. I could be up on energy leading the race, which around here I wasn't expecting. Even though it is a tight, small circuit, there is an advantage to be second, third, and looking at last year's races, and I think, as an example, the race 1 last year that Pascal won was really impressive from I think second or third on the grid, being up on energy and making the pace, and that was kind of my fear for today, that the guys starting second, third would be able to do that on me, but my car really was super, and I was able to control it quite well, so. It's probably the most relaxed I've been in a racing car in a long, long time. I felt very, very good with it, and the race went perfectly.
That's obviously 4 wins from 6 races to end your season, 5 wins from the last 6 races for Jaguar. Obviously, you step away from the team now. What are your emotions? Because it's gone. I don't want to use the term roller coaster, but I can't think of a better word. It's been a roller coaster of a season. You were down in 18th with 10 points after 6 races, and now you're 28 points behind Oliver Rowland finishing the season, which is super impressive.
No, cheers. It's definitely a roller coaster. I've been very open when talking about performance. But as a driver, you got to look at yourself as well. So of course there are races that I can do a better job. Maybe we didn't have the performance, but there were sometimes some points on the table that we didn't take. For me, the story of the season is that Oliver's been dominant, and it's nothing about the start of my season. He's been the better driver, and I think they've had the better car and team this year, so fully deserved the victory. Also, I must say, Pascal and Porsche's pace this year has been really, really impressive, and we've been able to secure great results in these last few races that have brought us back in the championship. But on pure performance across the season, we for sure had a lot of work to do, and we weren't as good as the two guys next to us. So I think we can be proud of at least how we executed the second half of the season.
Finally, a word on James Barclay. He also departs the team after this incredibly successful run as the team principal of Jaguar TCS Racing. You've shared, 32 races together? How influential has he been on your success?
Well, being very influential in bringing me to the team. I obviously drove for Envision, a customer of Jaguar TCS Racing, and they have all the data of Envision. We run the more or less an open book with them. They have quite a bit of information, actually, every single detail of what we have. But when I was in that environment, it allowed me to perform in season 9 and them to see what I was doing. And so I'm just thankful that he could, offer me the opportunity to drive for the team. And that's put me in a position in the last 2 years where I can show what I can do. And so I've got to be very thankful for that. Bigger than that, though, is that he's been a massive pillar for this team for 11 seasons, and I'm only 2. So the role that he's played to have Jaguar as a brand in this championship for such a long time is huge. He will be absolutely missed. He'll be absolutely very successful in the future with his new role. And a lot of what he's implemented will continue on the team.
Some great words about James Barclay, one of the most popular guys in the paddock. I know you've been chatting to him for a lot longer than I have, but in the 3 years I've been in this paddock, he's always been the guy that's I kind of pulled from pillar to post. Here they've got this huge hospitality, and he's also got to run a very successful, one of the most successful Formula E teams ever, whilst also, being the guy that looks after the drivers, the guy that is there for anyone to go to. And James Barclay leaves the championship, and it feels like we're going to have a very familiar face potentially coming across out of the ashes of what was Neil McLaren now after their final race in the championship, taking his place.
It is. That certainly is an exciting prospect. Just the idea of not losing Ian James. If that is the case, that's a phenomenal hire, and it'll be great to see someone that has won 2 championships, drivers and teams, go into Jaguar. But from the James Barclay point of view, it's phenomenally sad because he is such a staple in this championship. He's a figurehead of it. He really believes in it. He's behind everything. Not to be too self-referential, but personally to me, he's been a huge help as well when it comes to me getting up to speed with the championship.
But that's what I mean. He has time for everybody, despite having 0 time. He also loves to party as well. Like we've seen him celebrating as Jaguar do. And in Jaguar known as the biggest party animals in this paddock. So Ian James from Neil McLaren is rumoured to be the guy that's going to replace him. And if so, that's great. Obviously, though, we are saying goodbye to the McLaren name in Formula E, which is a real shame. And we could be saying goodbye to Sam Bird, who's been here since the very start. He was on the first podium back in Beijing. He's won a London race before. He's done everything in Formula E apart from win a championship, which is really, really sad. He's been a great friend to talkSPORT as well. And we hope that maybe we'll see him at some point. Maybe he'll be a reserve driver. He'll be involved in media. And actually, that's what I caught up with him in his final ever media pen after the race to find out what Sam's plans are for the future and if he hoped for a route back into the Formula E paddock in some capacity.
I'm not hanging up the helmet. It's just that there's very limited opportunity, and you get that sensation that it's looking difficult to be here next year. I mean, as I've said, I'm not hanging up the helmet. If I get a call, incredible. But for now, it looks like it might be goodbye.
But given your experience, given what you can offer to a team, especially with a new generation coming, you've got a lot to offer there. Would you consider a role, maybe not in a racing seat straight away, or would you just want to be racing?
No, I think I've got a lot to offer as a race driver, but let's see. Maybe I'll reflect over the next week, month, and reevaluate what position that I could help a team in. I still think I can score a lot of points for a team with the right environment and the right mindset. There's some monkeys on my back that I need to get rid of in December. Once they're gone, I'll be flying.
Have you considered maybe a media role? I mean, we've seen drivers do it alongside being maybe reserve drivers. Do you find, I know you did a bit of commentary on that lesser station that we don't talk about, but you know that you're getting great reviews on that. I hate to say, but I feel like you can move across.
I've got a great face for a radio. So I don't know. It is something that I'm doing it because, look, I'm 38. I know that this can't continue forever. As much as I want it to, I would race until I'm 90. But you can't do that. And there comes a point where the younger drivers are just a little bit better. I still don't, I refuse to believe I'm there yet, because I can put in performances like today and yesterday, I can still race. But yeah, maybe some media stuff would be really fun.
We've spoken to Taylor a lot this season. He said a lot of great things about how you've helped him. And I'm sure he's helped you in ways because, you know, he's brought that youthful energy and I guess, I don't know what the word is. He's, you know, naivety of a young driver that I'm sure you've enjoyed having around and showing the ropes to. I hope you and him will have a good relationship wherever you end up next season.
Of course we will. Taylor's been a breath of fresh air to Formula E. Best rookie in Formula E history, in my opinion. Can't wait to see what he does next year. I know what he's doing next year. You guys don't know what he's doing next year. You do know what he's doing next year. Yeah, okay. Well, I can't wait to see how he does. I'm sure he's going to do brilliantly.
Sam Bird there as Neil McLaren comes to an end. We hope that maybe it's not Sam's career ending in Formula E, but he did allude to that in his message that he put on his Instagram. And I know that you've been good friends with Sam for a long time.
I would love to see Sam continue to race. I would also love to see him on the broadcast team because he offers phenomenal insight. And we've seen that and what he does with radio commentary for Formula One as well. So I would massively welcome him there. It will feel weird not having Sam Bird racing in this championship, but I think it is, you know, in the words of Bob Dylan, times are changing. And I think when a veteran leaves, it only opens the door for rookies because rookies have just been so good pretty much since Jake Dennis came in, you know, Taylor Barnard as well. Even looking back at the rookie test in Berlin, some really, really hot prospects there. And I think the game is changing a little bit and it lends itself to these youngsters that are ready and they're hungry.
And I think Sam was alluding there, you know, saying that he thinks Taylor's the best ever rookie and he's going to keep helping him out. So with Taylor moving on and staying in the paddock next year, we don't know where yet. But I mean, if you want to look at it, you can maybe check out the race.com.org. They'll probably tell you where it is. Taylor Barnard will be back next season. And we talk about new faces coming into the championship. This year's champion, I feel like we should end on the Oliver Rowland story. He's not a spring chicken. He's 32 years old, but 10 years after he won Formula Renault, he is now the Formula E world champion. We've had him on the show. We've talked about him loads. We'll hear from him again in just a second. But for him to have gone through the roller coaster he's been through, stepping away from Formula E, not knowing if he'd come back, then rejoining with what he considers home at Nissan, and them having this instant success. It's been a fantastic year to watch that story unfold.
It really has. And like, I'm not shy in saying that I'm a huge Oliver Rowland fan, and I have been since the moment he raced in the championship. He's just a great guy as well, but such a phenomenally talented racing driver. And I talked to him earlier in the week, actually, in an interview for the broadcast, and he said to me that after that trouble with Mahindra, it wasn't just whether he knew he was going to be in Formula E anymore. He didn't know if he'd ever drive again. So you think that's only a season and a half, 2 seasons ago, and he just won his world championship. You know, and for me, personally, I think it's really good for the sport because sometimes the format of Formula E makes it so not necessarily the driver that you think is going to win or has done the work season long gets it at the end because of some carnage in a race circuit.
Nick Cassidy last year, for example.
Nick Cassidy, perfect examples. You know, there are other examples in the past, you know, when it's come down to 1 point, for example. But Oliver Rowland was just phenomenal on whatever challenge, whatever condition, whatever circuit was thrown at him in the team. They found a way to conquer it. And there's an amazing point in the season where his record, his leaderboard, kind of looked a little bit like a sound engineer testing a microphone. And it was like 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, whatever.
Nice,
amazing work, and he deserves it.
Well, look, here's what he had to say after we spoke again. We've spoken to Oliver Rowland loads and loads, so I thought I'd throw in some curveball questions to find out a bit more about his trip to Ibiza that he's going on first thing tomorrow.
I'm still pretty annoyed about the race, to be honest. I thought I did a really good job up until about lap 12, 13. And then, obviously the end result wasn't great in the race, so I'm a bit disappointed with myself. But in the grand scheme of things, the championships won over 16 races, so we did a great job. Is it 16? Yeah, I was just checking. But yeah, we did a great job. I think we were consistent throughout the season. We were able to perform at our best when we were capable of winning, and that's what's important. And yeah, obviously, very happy to share the podium with my family, and looking forward to a little bit of time off.
Obviously, a disappointing end to the season for the team. What is the feeling in the garage right now? Because you were in it for all three, and you only came away with one in the end.
Yeah, of course. I think everybody's a bit disappointed, but I think we have to realise the journey we've been on. When I joined back, we finished 9th or 10th in the Constructors or Teams Championship. And we've come on this journey where, last year I finished 4th in the drivers and we're 4th in the teams. This year, 1st in the drivers, 3rd in the teams. Of course, this track didn't seem to suit us for performance. We improved a lot today. I just missed the duels by a fraction. And then honestly, in the race was going quite well. I was able to race well. So they did a great job turning it around, but we knew I had to go for it today because obviously the Jaguars were at the front. We needed to try and score some big points to not lose second. And unfortunately, when you have an element of risk, sometimes there's no reward.
And since you won the championship, who's reached out to you that maybe you didn't expect to hear from? Because it's been a long journey. It's been 10 years since you won a championship with Formula Renault, and I imagine people have popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, after Berlin, I had hundreds of messages. It took me, in fact, I didn't want to go through them for the first 2 or 3 days. I kind of took my time and went through them and made sure that I responded to everyone properly. So, it was lots of people. I don't want to single anyone out in particular, but it was nice for friends, family, people that I haven't seen for years and years to congratulate me, and that was really, really nice.
Finally, I think a lot of people will be tracking the 8:30 flight from, is it Gatwick?
Yeah.
Gatwick to Ibiza tomorrow. I've been looking at what's on in Ibiza this week. Calvin Harris at Ushuaia on Tuesday night. Would that be on the cards?
We were considering that, yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Any other plans while you're in Ibiza? Not that people...
we have a dinner and a club up tomorrow night and then a boat day on Tuesday, so it should be nice.
Big celebrations, I'm sure, for Nissan. It's become a bit of a thing, isn't it, for British champions? Yeah. Jake Dennis starting the Ibiza trip. Were you on that?
No.
I feel like you were on some kind of trip.
No, I would have loved to have been, but actually, I think
Ollie invited me and anyone else who wanted to come, but we would have had to pay for ourselves, and
it's worth it. It's worth it.
Mate,
there is an overlap. Jay Dennis is there about 6 days later. It might be a day or so overlap.
Some British carnage going on Ibiza, but when isn't there? Let's face it. Well done to Tag Heuer Porsche as well, winning their first teams championship after being incredibly strong. Both drivers getting 100 points plus this season, despite maybe not being the best of friends. That shows that you can get things done when there are acrimonious situations going on in your team. Who knows where Antonio Fiat da Costa will be next year? Perhaps he'll be driving in place of Nick Cassidy. That could be the rumour. A lot to find out, and we'll keep you updated on talkSPORT across the next few months or so. And then, of course, we start again. Season 12, the last season of the Gen 3 era, in the Gen 3 Evo part of the Gen 3 era, in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, one of the best races we have every single year, with an eye to Gen 4 as well. And you must be, having been here for so long and being so ingrained in the EV world, you're very excited about Gen 4. Gen
4 is going to completely change the game, and that isn't hyperbole, that isn't PR spinning. Honestly, I've seen some of the tech. I've spoke to some of the drivers that are testing it. It is going to change the game. You get rid of your thoughts of 1 or 2 seconds a lap quicker and start thinking closer towards 6, 7, 8 seconds a lap quicker.
Yeah, we're hearing faster than F2, which would make a lot of sense why a lot of teams are testing out rookies who are in F2, and it becomes an even more viable option for these kids who dream of F1 and maybe there's no path there, and Formula E really is a destination championship. Thank you very much for listening to all of our talkSPORT 2 coverage across the year. We will endeavour to continue that into season 12, and of course you can go back, you can watch highlights of all the races this year, and you can watch all the driver interviews on the Formula E and the talkSPORT YouTube channels. And I guess I'll probably see you hopefully in Sao Paulo if we've still got a job, we're still employed.
Who knows?
Saunders, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon for more motorsport here on the talkSPORT Driving YouTube channel.